when we start putting the splash pan on, you want to take the large one and you want to push it under away from you. Now it's going to want to do this. If you're doing this, it's not working. You have to push it under the lid and just push it so that the space is even from the edge of the wheel to the edge of the splash pan. And then this one, it just clips itself under. There you go. We're going to start with a full bucket of water, a sponge, small sponge that you can fit in your hand, a wire, and if it should not be frayed. If it's frayed at all, don't use it. And needle tool, and I call this the bent stick, all right? It's an angled stick. Okay, those are the four things you need plus a bucket of water. And have a full bucket of water, not just like 2 or 3 inches. All right. So, put that on my right-hand side. So I've got 1.5 pounds of clay, and I've spiral wedged it because the spiral wedge helps you. It's already spiraled in a way that the wheel turns. So you want that. Dry wheel head. And look at this shape. This is the shape you want. It's like a little ice cream cone with a pointy top. And I will just bash the edges in because you want to keep it between these two circles, because this is going to help you get the 6 inches and as narrow as it needs to be. So I'm just going to put that on the dry wheel head, press it down, and then we're going to start. So remember, we've got that little ice cream shape you all are familiar with, and we're putting it in between the second circle. So it's got to be inside the second circle on the wheel. Dry wheel head inside the second circle. So I'm just going to push it down with my right hand to make sure it's attached. Water on my hands, and I'm pushing it down with both hands, and then I'm curving my hands in and up. So the first time you do the pull up, it's going to feel lumpy. And look how much clay is on my hands. This is the area of the hand that you use. In other words, all of it. Not just this part, not just this part. Your hands have to be all over the clay when you pull it up. And the first time it's going to feel lumpy because you're just beginning to center it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm putting this hand, and it's just going to be slightly on the inside of that second ring, and I'm going to push with my right hand into that as I push down. What's happening there is it's hitting that wall of my left hand, and then I'm curving my fingers under here to just make sure I stay within that second ring on the wheel, because I'm trying to contain the spread of the clay. So then I'm going to pull up again. Here I go. My hands are all over every part of that clay, including the top. See where the clay is? And the force is like this. There's a force going in this way, but I'm also pushing it up. So I'm pushing it in and up at the same time. So you've got to have some speed. If you do that too slowly, you're just going to pull the top off. So you've got to have, this is as fast as the wheel goes. I've got my foot on the foot pedal. Okay, I'm going to push it back down again. Push it down, hands all over it, and I keep cupping on the inside there, all right? And I've got a little flat spot, so I'm going to do that one more time. My chin is right over the clay. My arms are jammed onto my legs, so I've got stability, and I'm pushing it back down again, and then I'm curving round. Okay, so let me do that one more time. See how my thumbs are over? Now this is the question I get. I'll do this, even though it'll kind of mess me up. This is the question I often get. Why does it do this? It doesn't do that, you do that. What happens when that happens is you are pulling up much faster than the wheel is going. So if you feel it doing that, if you feel, oh my God, it's about to come off, push it back down again. Just slow down your hands. Speed up the wheel, slow down your hands. So now I've got that little tear, so I'm going to have to recenter this. So we're pushing the clay into itself, into the center as much as possible. All right, so now I've got this. I'm inside the second ring, just about. And you want to make sure that you keep this stuff off the wheel. If you've got a whole bunch of clay on the wheel, that means you haven't gone down far enough when you first started to throw. So, and you can always just scrape it off with your thumb or use the sponge. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up. I'm opening up with my thumb. I'm just going to push it in and take it out. Okay, and you need to have left about 1/2 an inch at the base. So your thumb does not hit the base of the wheel. It hits 1/2 an inch above it, and you should naturally know when that's happened. If you don't naturally know, trust me, you'll learn after about 10 times. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up. And you want to do this a little bit slower. So notice, as I'm going along with throwing, the wheel seems to get slower and slower as I work. So it's very fast when I first start centering, and then it gets slower. So this is slow, and what I'm doing is I'm going to open this up towards this wall. I don't want this wall to spread out, the outside wall, but my thumb is going to push against it, and that's going to open it up. So the only thing that moves is my thumb. So here it goes, it's in there. My fingers are on the bottom of the wheel. You can't see anything moving, but my thumb just moved and opened that up. Okay? So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that little right angle that we need to make a to make a right angled base. So now I've got a right angle, and I've got a lumpy wall, and I'm just going to flatten the base. So I'm taking it from the edge at about 3 o'clock, if this was a clock, 3 o'clock, to the center and back again. All right? This is the setup. So I'm just going to let you see what that looks like. Right angle, lumpy wall. Okay, so there's about 1/2 an inch here. I've set that right angle when I did this with my hand. And now what I'm going to do is when I get to this part, I'm just going to even this wall up. And I'm going to do it like this. So let's get to that point. Right, so look at this. I wired that off, and I've got this great little, I didn't scrape it off with my hands. I just pulled it off with a wire, and I've got this great little pad that's perfect for sticking the next bit of clay on. Don't take it off. That is like your glue pad. Okay, so I'm centering this piece of clay. So pulling it up, it feels lumpy. I'm pushing it back down. So the force is here. I'm pushing with my hands here, but I'm also pushing up at the same time. So there's 2 forces going on. And the wheel is pretty fast. So now I'm going to push it into this hand. So I'm going to pull up again. So let me show you what that looks like when I push it into this hand. Imagine the wheel is going, and you can see, look, it still needs to be centered because there's air bubbles. When the wheel is going, I push with this hand into this hand, and then what happens as the wheel turns around, this just spirals itself back into the body of the clay. And that's how it's mixing, which is basically centering. So see that? I'm keeping that profile down here. Now it's beginning to feel smooth. So I'm pushing it back down. Okay, so that's pretty centered. You know, I'm just going to take a little bit of that extra clay off because there's grog on the wheel head. And now I'm going to open it up. Remember, put my thumb in. Look at on my arms, on my legs, so there's stability. And I slow down a little bit here when I want to start opening the pot up with my thumb. See how my fingers don't move? My thumb is in there. This is what's happening inside. Okay? All right? Not this. And not this. It's this. All right. So now I'm going to set that little right angle. And you do that by just touching, your thumb is on the wheel head, and you just touch the inside bottom of the clay. And you get that little right angle like this. Remember that? That's what I just did. Now I'm flattening the base. 3 o'clock on the side of the pot to the center and back again. And I use one finger for this, but then I have my other finger behind it. So basically what I'm doing is this. I'm going from the edge of the pot to the center again. And this finger is slightly up, so this is a flat surface. Okay. So now, I'm just going to flatten that lip, because we want to make sure, you never ever want that lip to be lopsided. Can you move the camera to see this? Turn the wheel, turn the wheel. Because if you do, you get that. See that? That's someone, bless you, Hannah, who has not pressed down on the lip every time she's come up. And when I say press down, I don't mean, you just want to make sure it doesn't escape. the minute you get that, you're doomed. So she's going to have to cut that off and start again. Okay. So what I'm going to do is this lumpy wall, I want to make this even and tall, so I'm going to push with my thumb, and I call this clawing up. You sort of claw the clay up towards this imaginary center line, and I usually push with my right hand, so my left hand goes in. This is very important. Once your thumb is opened, by the way, your right hand never goes in anymore, it's all your left hand. And at this point, you're probably going to be jamming your arm onto your left side, into your ribs. So I'm going to push my thumb here. I'm clawing. There's a little bit of pressure on the outside and the inside, and I've just evened up that wall. And then I'm going to press the lip here. And I do that. All I'm doing is holding it. I'm not squeezing. I'm just holding it so that no clay is escaping. So basically, this whole thing is contained. Finish out the middle. Okay, now I'm just going to start pulling the wall up. And I'm going to do that by pushing with this finger towards the center. I'm taking this clay and I'm pushing it up and towards the center. This finger is going to counterbalance that pressure. So all I'm doing is pushing up, in and up. And remember, we're trying to do a right angle, an angled in, because centrifugal force, which doesn't exist, so it's centripetal force, is doing this, and we're counteracting that force with speed and pressure. Okay, so here I go. And I'm going to show you, once I pulled up, what points of attachment I have, or contact I have with the clay. Okay, so I pull up, and I immediately finish that lip off. And you can see here where I've been touching. This part of the finger, and this part of the finger. So let me just demonstrate that so you can see on camera where the contact areas are. Look at that. Well, that's all, the only place I'm touching. These fingers are holding it together. I'm giving myself stability with my fingers like this, but this is the only area of contact. So let me show you that. So basically, what did we call this? The T-Rex hands. Basically, all I'm doing is making my hand into sort of like this little short-armed claw that touches the side of the pot. Then I'm just finishing that off. A bit of water. So I kind of tend to do this, and I make these noises, like I'm a T-Rex attacking something. Okay? That's how you get that. Who's laughing?
Me.
So that's how you get that, what am I trying to say? The sort of really hard contact, concentrated. It's the nuclear warhead on the blade of grass. That's what you're doing. Just right on the area. So now look at this as well. This is a little demonstration. If I'm going really fast and I put my finger up like this, that's when you get those corkscrews. See that corkscrew? If I go really slowly and I put my finger up really fast, that's when you get this corkscrew, and that's when it starts to get uneven. Okay, and look, you've got it uneven here. If I go really slowly, if I put my finger on here and I go really fast, but I leave my finger on here and I don't move up, that's when I get this. So that's what you're doing when you pull this off, okay? So let me start again and get to that point. We'll just do the finishing part. Okay, wire, I'm going to cut this off. I'm getting that noise on the wire, on the wheel head. I'm cutting it off. Just pull it off. There's that lovely pad that I can use to attach my next piece of clay. Anyone have any questions, by the way? So I'm pushing it down. Now, this is my third piece of clay. So I wedged up four pieces, and it's an odd thing, but the more it sits, the more difficult it is to center for some reason. So you don't want to center, you don't want to wedge too many pieces of clay, because by the time you get to the end, it'll feel like it hasn't been wedged at all. So I usually do 4 to 6 pieces of clay, depending on how fast I'm throwing. So I can feel it lumpy. You've got to have a little bit of faith in your own ability to center too. You've just got to ignore. The first part is all about the clay saying you're never going to do it, and you've just got to say, yeah, well, thanks for that, and carry on. All right, so I'm pushing back down. That's centered. I'm going to open up with my thumb. Opening. Angled edge, slightly slower. Flattening the base. So a lot of people see this kind of thing on the side of a pot. This isn't anything except it's you giving yourself stability. I'm not doing anything with this hand, I'm just giving this hand stability. So this hand is on the wheel head and it's sort of holding my other hand as I use my left hand to flatten the base. So I don't ever want to see this kind of thing. Oh, look at me, I'm throwing, because it's not doing anything except messing it up. The wheel is doing all the work. You are just directing contact in a specific place. Okay, now remember the clawing up? That's what I'm doing right now. I'm evening up that wobbly wall. If you feel like it's going, ease off the pressure a little bit. And I finished off that lip, and I'm just feeling down right now to see how even it is. It's pretty even. It's all about the lip, ladies and gentlemen. So now I'm pushing towards the top, towards the center. I'm pushing the clay up and towards the center. That's how I'm getting height. And I am pushing pretty hard. The reason it's going in is because I'm actually pushing hard. If I was pushing without the wheel going, it would probably hit this center line. But the wheel, the force of the wheel is pushing against me. And so that's why I'm getting a sort of straight line. I mean, it's going in because I'm pushing harder than the wheel is pushing out. But if I just went straight up, the pot would be going out, which is why everyone throws bowls when they first start, because they're not counteracting that force. Okay, so I finish off the lip, 2 fingers, finger on top, and I'm just feeling down. This is not, I'm not actually throwing, but I'm just feeling where the wool is thick and where it's thin. So I can apply pressure. So if it's thicker here, if I feel like it's thick here, I will put more pressure here as I pull up. So here I go again. And at this point I start slowing down. So you can see my hand is coming up about as quickly as the wheel is going round. If I was coming up faster than the wheel, that's when I get a corkscrew on the side. This way I have concentric circles. Ooh, you can feel a little lump there. It's sort of like I'm stacking circles one on top of the other. Then I'm going to flatten that up. Okay, so I'm going to take my hand and clean out the water out of the bottom. So I've slightly distorted it, so I'm just going to even that up. And I'm just feeling down here, down the side as I go down to see where the thickness is and where. And I'm trying to do it so you can actually see if I've created problems for myself. And let me tell you where there are some. This is thinner here, and there's a bit of thickness here. So I'm going to push here as I come up a little bit more than I push here and here. And I know there's a lot of thickness here. So I'm going to really dig in here and get that clay because I want more height. So I'm really pushing. Now I'm letting off the pressure a bit because this part is quite thin. So I'm just actually touching the sides and not pushing too hard on the inside or the outside. And then this is really thin. Here comes that thick bit. So I'm just going to push a little bit harder here. And then when I get to that thin bit, I'm letting off the pressure. And then I just take my hands off. I don't squeeze the top. Okay? And I'm just feeling how thin it is and thick. Looks pretty good. It's just a couple of more dodgy bits. Let me just straighten this out. So now this is my final pull up. So you can see also at this point I've been a bit naughty, but I've changed my finger, but you know, you can use this finger. I'm using this. I can't remember why I'm using this. But, you know, sometimes you get individual things. But for teaching, this is the best one to start with. But you can see how little contact I have on the side of the clay. All right. So now what I'm going to do is... Well, first of all, I'm going to take the water out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those ridges off. We're going to take the bent stick, the crooked stick. We're going to put it on the side here. So see that? And what we're going to do is we're going to go down and up, and this finger is going to counteract that pressure, and we're just going to even out that wall, so it's a flat wall. This also helps you with trimming. If I take the excess off the bottom, which I'm going to do right now, I'm just going to push through and hit the bottom of the wheel head. That also gives me a right angle on the outside. And then I am just pulling it up. If I feel like it's going in a little bit, I push from the inside towards that stick so I get a straighter side. I call that good cheating, but really it's just teaching you how to alter the surface. Alright, it's not perfect, but... And then I'm just going to finish off that. I'm going to just put my needle tool under here and take this excess off. So just cut it. So you can see how that's a really nice right angle now. And I'm just going to take that excess off. I do this because I know when it comes to trimming, the less clay I have messing around on the bottom, the easier it's going to be to trim. And then I'm going to do my little trick with a piece of paper. You can use plastic. The reason we don't use plastic is because we keep finding it in the recycling clay buckets, so paper is easier to decompose. Okay, and I'm just gonna wet it, and I'm just touching the top of it, so I make this little shape, and I just make that shape over here because that's a great surface if you're making cups to drink out of. Okay, I'm just gonna get my wire, gonna make that noise, feel it on the bottom. You can turn the wheel if you want. As soon as you get through, you stop, and then this is the part. You want to have really dry hands, right? These are bone dry now. And I'm just going to put them at the bottom and let them touch the side and barely touch it, and it'll lift itself up. Ta-da! All right, there you go. That's it. Oh, hold on, let's measure it. Oh, that's right, 6 inches. 1.5 pounds of clay. That's your assignment. Thank you.